way, you know how there's going to be Star Wars films forever? Well, believe it or not, there's one out this week about the origin of Han Solo, the universe's favourite human kebab. Now you might be thinking, but why do we need a Han Solo origin story? Everything we know about him is laid out in his initial introduction on Tatooine. Smuggler, blowhard, pilot, sexy. And yeah, you'd be right about all of that. And yeah, you're allowed to call him sexy. It's 2018, that's totally fine. And then you might say, well, if they're telling this unnecessary tale of this sexy man we all know and understand, then it must be a tale worth telling with excellent execution. And to that I would say, no, that is not the case. Well, at least in my opinion, because this movie is just flat. Not terrible, competently put together, with some interesting moments, but Solo: A Star Wars Story is everything I was hoping it wouldn't be, resulting from the firing of the original directors and the massive reshoots. Just a by-the-numbers Star Wars adventure that hits most of the major story beats you'd expect, but not in ways that are particularly inventive. And then at the end, you know, there's the tease of a potential sequel, which I don't really have any interest in. But look, it's not all bad. I quite liked Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, even if at times you kind of forget he's supposed to be Han Solo, and Donald Glover is very charismatic and charming as Lando. But as charming as he is, as really both of them are, it is weird seeing other actors in these roles. But all in all, it's a good cast, and everyone says the words they're supposed to say, presumably in the order that they were written in the script. Didn't really care for the inclusion of another sassy droid, but Emilia Clarke, Woody Harrelson, Chewbacca Guy, various crew members, they're all good. And Paul Bettany is suitably villainous as Guy whose lines on his face light up when he experiences an emotion. There's also some subtle fan service that I liked, but there's also some less than subtle fan services that if I had lines on my face that lit up when I experienced emotion, they would do no such thing when such moments occurred. There's some real shoehorned in origin stuff here in relation to Han's name, how he gets his blaster, how the movie ties into the plight of the rebellion, and other things I'm not going to spoil here. But yeah, I don't know, the whole thing seems to play like an extended but average episode of Star Wars Rebels. Now it's become somewhat of a tradition to rank these new Star Wars films in order from favourite to least favourite. However, I've come to realise this time around that it's becoming increasingly difficult to put together such an accurate list, and perhaps at this time around, I'm just going to set this aside for another day. Just kidding, it's Star Wars ranking time! Yeah! Right, here's my list. I'm not going to read them out, you see it. And yeah, just to clarify, The Last Jedi, it's still right up there. Even though I know for a lot of people, this invalidates my opinion on absolutely everything else. But I just want you to know that I've taken your criticisms on board, and all of that is going to be my single regret on the day that I die, which I think is a good compromise. Solo, though, it goes here. To me, it is the least inspired, least interesting, but most man with glowing lines on his face Star Wars film out of the new bunch. It might even be here, but I really need to see it again to make any solid decision, which I am reluctant to do. But the reason I much prefer The Last Jedi to this is because Solo feels like a by-the-book, made-by-committee endeavor with some okay action sequences, but also some very murky and uninteresting action sequences that feels like a large group of 29 to 55-year-old Star Wars fans put together an off-the-top-of-their-head list of things that they'd want to see in a Han Solo prequel, and then they just did that. Whilst for me, The Last Jedi felt more of an exploration of the universe and the characters, and took risks, even if they all didn't pay off, which clearly a lot of them didn't for at least half of those who saw the film. I know people thought for The Last Jedi, that's not my Luke Skywalker, he wouldn't do that. But in Solo, I don't think there's any danger of, that's not what Han Solo would do. In fact, I can see a lot of people being on board with this movie in a big way because so much of it is familiar, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I can see a lot of people loving this, and that's great. It just didn't always work for me. Solo is safe, and that's fine. But what did you think of Solo: A Star Wars Story? If you have any thoughts, please feel free to leave them below. Or even, what's your Star Wars ranking? I'd love to hear that. Alright, I'm working on a Solo Easter egg video for this weekend, just like the Deadpool 2 one that's up right now. And also there's a Caravan of Garbage episode coming this week, another comic book one. It's also going to be a bit early on Patreon, that looks at another what-if scenario that involves Han Solo going blind permanently. So subscribe and bell icon if you want any of that. Also next Monday on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, we're talking all of Solo in more detail. The good, the not as good. Feel free to swing back around then if you're keen. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. Take care.